Every single bodyweight athlete at some point will have to face one tough dilemma: to train legs or not to train. The subject on first sight as simple and obvious is still one of more controversial themes within and outside calisthenics circles. On one hand you got people doing crazy skills who win trophies and get likes on Instagram who don't really bother to train their lower body. On the other you got people who go as far as devaluing or even disregarding their achievements by saying that everyone could do it with no legs, or better to say chicken legs. In the middle you can find rare individuals that display both great skill ability and heavy strong legs, who seem to have a lot of respect in the community, but are rather a rare exception. You see, as calisthenics athletes we have certainly more excuses to justify skipping lower body training in comparison to, for instance, bodybuilders. And as we all know, the origins of chicken legs accusations come exactly from this niche. At the end of the day, unlike for them, performance is the #1 goal we chase, and training legs can surely negatively impact our outcomes. Is there a right choice to make in this situation? How accurate are the arguments on both sides, and are there things to consider before making a decision? Let's try to find out today. Enjoy! Before getting into more subjective matters, it's worth to expound some straight facts. I think the absolutely crucial part of this discussion is accepting the fact that training legs will interfere with calisthenics, at least if we talk about upper body. There are 3 main mechanisms that contribute to that, which Rafał mentioned in our recent podcast. Lower body training will slow down our gains, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it will do it by many mechanisms.
First and obvious one is increasing our body weight through building leg muscles. Calisthenics is undoubtedly a relative strength sport, which means that our performance is dictated by the ratio of strength to body weight. If we increase strength but gain proportionally same amount of body weight along the way, you can see it's not gonna take us anywhere with body weight training. In order to optimize the relative strength, we have to minimize our weight gain only to the areas that contribute to this specific strength and obviously focus on them. For calisthenics, these areas are all muscles in upper body, but certainly not legs, which are in this case just a dead weight. Second mechanism is highly related to the first one. If you watch my very first video, you know that performance in calisthenic skills like planche or front lever is highly influenced by center of mass position. The lower our COM is, the more lean these skills require, and therefore the positions become harder to hold. So apart from adding weight and disrupting our relative strength ratio, it's adding weight to the worst possible area from the perspective of power skills like levers, as it contributes to lowering the COM of our body. Think about it, loading planche with ankle weights is gonna be so much harder than using same weight in form of weight vest. On top of that, have you ever wondered why this move is not even close to planche in terms of difficulty? That's the exact reason. On top of that, legs are the area very responsive for training in terms of size, and it's not very hard to gain couple of kilos out of nowhere, which rather does not happen in case of upper body. The last point is strictly related to programming, and to be more specific, time and recovery management. When including leg training, you have to take into account that you take away the hours and recovery you could spend on your upper body skill training and get better results in it. It's something you can't really work around, because while of course you can improve your recovery capacity, you could always spend this extra amount on more skill practice. On top of that, lower body training can be very taxing, especially if done in traditional manner by using heavy squats and deadlifts. The soreness and fatigue you get from it will surely decrease your capacity on next days, especially considering the fact that conventional lower body lifts engage upper body as well. A couple of days ago I created a questionnaire on my Instagram, by the way follow me on Instagram, through which I wanted to find out how many of you are actually training legs. It turns out the majority of my bodyweight athletes audience does incorporate leg training to their program. It did provoke me to create another questionnaire where I asked more specifically if people have more respect to calisthenics athletes who do train their lower body. The results were following. I think when taking up a very subjective rant like this, it's worth to distinguish between having more respect to something and disrespecting the other choice, cause there's enormous difference between these two attitudes. Let's establish that it's very reasonable to have additional respect for people who do train legs and present certain calisthenics level despite that. Simplifying things, if we have two athletes on same planche level with different leg size, the one with bigger legs had to obtain more strength to do it. It's just a plain fact that makes most of us consider it even a greater achievement. I think every single one of us will agree on that, as that's just an objective statement. Something that is being notoriously overlooked in these discussions is defining specifically what is the goal of calisthenics practitioner. As you can imagine, there is no one answer to it, as we can find many different niches within the calisthenics circles. Based on my observations, there are two main groups we can distinguish. First, one of them treats calisthenics as sports discipline, where the performance in specifically chosen exercises indicates the level of an athlete. It's not to say they have to compete, but the goal of their training is clearly directed to something. This something is in absolute majority of cases dependent on upper body relative strength. For these people, it's the only thing that matters, and doing anything that can negatively impact these outcomes, read lower body training, is logically a bad, unnecessary decision. It's not an excuse because there is literally no benefit in doing that, it's just a sport-specific behavior. I don't see people accusing swimmers for not having huge legs, or cyclists for not having jacked upper body. Human's physique is an important element of sport success. While as athletes we can't change most metrics like height for instance, what we have certain control under is worth optimizing based on our discipline. In case of advanced gymnastic strength elements, one of these things is not increasing leg size and not adding non-productive workloads. At the end of the day, you judge powerlifter for how much he bench presses and not what his best 10-kilometer run is. You judge gymnast for how good his rings routine is and not how much he deadlifts. So why, in opposed to other sports, calisthenics circles seem to have lots of people sharing this opinion? The answer lies in the second group that approaches calisthenics training a bit differently. You see, calisthenics is still a form of exercise and we can't really deny that. People in this group don't treat calisthenics as sport but form of resistance training. Bodyweight exercises are either the preferred way to become more athletic or they're the only choice in the current state, and very often are the addition or supplementary to other tools. The specific performance element is secondary and therefore the attitude to training of these people is different.
They are. Don't be afraid to say what you think. They are.
Now, while I don't really like the term complete athlete or general strength, we have to admit that when thinking of athletic person, we most likely have someone with strong legs in our mind. Now, why is that? Lower body strength is the foundation of most sports on this planet and is associated with powerful physique. Calisthenic skills are one of the very rare exceptions where strong legs are not the advantage and maybe a disadvantage. Now, this distinction is something completely normal and I would argue positive, as it just shows the big variety of functions that bodyweight training can have. Of course, people very often choose something in the middle and want to acquire many, sometimes interfering with each other's goals, which is again completely fine if they are aware of that. The problem begins when people start to either insult others for choosing the other path or using this fact as an excuse. Again, the excuse is reasonable. Training legs will make your skills harder, as we already established. However, if at the end of the day the primary goal is performing well in calisthenics, then while talking about height for instance is maybe a fair thing to do because we can't really change or influence that, taking up leg training, adding extra kilograms to your body and making bodyweight skills harder is a conscious choice people make. So then expecting to be treated differently and having lower standards is something I don't really understand. If you really want to be great at bodyweight skills and that's your main and number one objective, don't train your legs. And if you decide to do it, don't use that as a justice for your lower performance, because literally no one obligated you to make your legs heavier. If I had to summarize this video in one sentence, it would be: do whatever you want to do. Make the decision based on your own personal needs and never on someone's opinion or idea of what is the proper way to train, because something like that simply doesn't exist. I know it's a bit controversial to say, but if you have no interest in training legs and it won't contribute to your goals, then just don't train them. If you're familiar with the principle of specificity in strength training, converting it from powerlifting to calisthenic strength, leg training is something that we would classify as the fourth layer of exercises. Basically the ones that are so non-specific that can potentially interfere with our training outcomes. So knowing that if your goals are purely gymnastic strength related, just as powerlifter doesn't have to do endurance work, you don't have to care about leg strength and mass. If you're someone that likes the idea of being complete, healthy and all-round strong person, by all means train your lower body. It will contribute to your goals. And yes, once again I got massive respect to athletes who are seriously doing both and still have outstanding skill performance. Shout out to Raffle and Perry. But if you're watching this video, be aware that there is a chance you might not be one of those guys. And for you to reach full planche or iron cross, you might have to be more specific and precise in your approach.
You got the heat?
So before I finish, I want to say thank you for all the recent subs, likes and comments. It's really crazy how much the channel grew since the last couple of videos, and it's a blessing to have you guys as an audience. If you enjoyed the video, then please leave a like and let me know in the comment section what is your stance on the topic of leg training in calisthenics. I really want to know your opinion on that. I also want to thank all the athletes that by sending me their footage helped me to create this video. If you want to become the part of next project, just follow me on Instagram and wait for the announcement on my story regarding the type of footage I need for that project. On top of that, I started posting there again, so you can get a valuable regular content in a shorter format while I work on some bigger video like this one. Thank you for watching. This was Things Movement TV. Talk to you next time.